With a very exciting first couple of days of the 2018-19 NBA season, basketball is just warming up and will only get better. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Every NBA champion or title contender will heavily depend on a good starting five to compete at the highest levels. The Boston Celtics are arguably the deepest team in the league, with a loaded 1-9 where many of those guys would be starters on most teams. Golden State, once DeMarcus Cousins comes back, will technically have 5 All-Stars. That's just unfair. With that said, here are the worst players on every starting 5 right now from every team, starting from alphabetical order. Starting with the Atlanta Hawks, with a lineup of Trae Young, Ken Bazemore, Taurean Prince, John Collins, and Dwayne Dedmon, where the 7-foot center averaged 10-8 last season and 46 starts, I'll go with the 29-year-old big man who would be a backup center for almost all teams. It appears if Jeremy Lin can stay healthy and continue to come off the bench, he has a chance to be the 6th man of the year, but he's still Atlanta's best player until the young players continue to improve. For the Boston Celtics, where they are insanely loaded, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward in the backcourt, Brown and Tatum alongside Horford, all I can say is wow, they will be a big problem this year. Brad Stevens will switch lineups at times, but it appears the potential of Brown and Tatum will be future All-Stars. Jalen heavily improved from last season compared to his rookie year, with averages of 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, will only get better. For some teams, he would be the 2nd or 3rd option right now, but as the worst player in your starting 5, that's just remarkable. You can thank the Brooklyn Nets for Brown, as he'll be the best player on that lineup right now. Brooklyn's one of the least talented teams, but do have a bright future with their young guys D'Angelo Russell, Allen Crabbe, Joe Harris, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, and Jared Allen. Harris is the worst starter right now, as DeMarre Carroll is out indefinitely. Nonetheless, there are no clear-cut starters that are that much better than everybody else on the team. The Charlotte Hornets, with Kemba Walker, Nicholas Batum, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Marvin Williams, and Cody Zeller. Zeller is the worst starter. Last season, came off the bench, averaged 7 and 5. Currently in Season 6, the former 4th overall pick has been viewed as a bust, while backup center Bismack Biyombo is not much better. The Chicago Bulls, once Lowry Marketing comes back, it will be Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, Jabari Parker, the 7-foot sophomore from Finland, and Wendell Carter, a very underrated and young Bulls team who can sneak in as the 8th seed. Rookie Wendell Carter is the worst of the starting 5 for now, but a great energy type player, does all the little things, has a chance to be a great player in the NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers, the 2nd post-LeBron era, Cleveland still got many of the same players from last season, and George Hill, J.R. Smith, Rodney Hood, Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson as their starters. C.D. Osman started last game, as Ty Lue will have plenty to adjust in his lineup, but J.R. Smith's clearly the worst starter for the Cavs right now. Only averaged 8.3 points a season ago, shot 40% from the field. I expect plenty of J.R. memes this season. The Dallas Mavericks, Dennis Smith Jr., Luka Doncic, Wes Matthews, Harrison Barnes, and DJ's not a bad 5. Smith Jr. is the worst one right now, as I believe Luka will be Rookie of the Year and be the face of that franchise for many years to come. The Nuggets starting 5 consists of Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Paul Millsap, and Nikola Jokic, are destined to make the postseason. I'ma say Paul Millsap's the worst out of those 5, but not a bad player at all, averaging over 14.5 points last season, but he is 33 years old. The Pistons, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard will likely start the 2 most nights over Reggie Bullock, Stanley Johnson, Blake, and Andre. Out of the 5, Kennard's obviously the worst of those guys right now. For Golden State, Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond, and Damian Jones. I expect Jones and Jordan Bell to share the starting role in half the games, but when DeMarcus Cousins comes back, Draymond is the least talented out of the 5. Now that's crazy. Most people would even argue that's 5 of the top 20 players in the NBA. The Houston Rockets with CP3, James Harden, PG Tucker, James Ennis, currently starting with Capella at center. Ennis is the worst player in that starting lineup right now, unless D'Antoni decides to start Melo. The Indiana Pacers with Darren Collison, Vic Oladipo, Bojan Bogdanovic, Thaddeus Young, and Miles Turner will be competitive in the East. The least best of the 5, I go with Thaddeus Young. The Clippers starters, Pat Beverly, Avery Bradley, Danilo Gallinari, Tobias Harris, and Marcin Gortat, where we can all agree Gortat is the worst of them at 34 years old, playing in his 12th season. The Lakers, Rajon Rondo getting the start over Lonzo for now, KCP, LeBron, Ingram, and McGee. The answer is obviously JaVale, but he does do the little things. The Grizzlies with Mike Conley back at the point, Garrett Temple, Chandler Parsons, JaMychal Green, and Marc Gasol. The answer is Chandler Parsons, who will be making over 24 mil this season. Ouch. Down to South Beach with the Miami Heat, Goran Dragic, Wayne Ellington, Josh Richardson, James Johnson, and Hassan Whiteside. It's a close one between Ellington and Johnson, but I'll go with James since he's already 31 years old, past his prime. Up north to Wisconsin, Milwaukee with Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. Not a bad starting five at all. It's a close one between Brogdon and Lopez, but I'll go with the 7-foot center who's 30 years old, already in his 11th season. The Minnesota Timberwolves with Jeff Teague, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Taj Gibson, and Karl Towns. The answer is Gibson. It's that simple. Down to New Orleans, Drew Holiday, E'Twaun Moore, Solomon Hill, Julius Randle, and Anthony Davis. Solomon is clearly the worst of those five. On to the Big Apple, the Knicks, who scored 49 points in the second quarter against the Hawks. Trey Burke and Frank will likely play most of the 1 and 2, with Courtney Lee coming off the bench, Tim Hardaway Jr., Lance Thomas, with KP out for now, and Kanter at the center position. Lance Thomas is the worst of those guys, who averaged only 4 points a season ago. Coach Fitz will have plenty of mix and matches in his lineup. OKC, Russ and Andre Robertson will start once they come back from injury. PG is solid at the 3, with Patrick Patterson and Steven Adams the 4 and 5. Patterson and Jeremy Grant will share the 4. Whichever one of those guys starts is clearly the worst in the starting lineup. Orlando, DJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, Jonathan Isaac, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Vucevic for now. I expect Mo Bamba to start as the season progresses. Augustine is my pick at 30 years old, not a starting caliber point guard, but he's the only floor general for the team right now. Philadelphia, the lineup of Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and Joel Embiid. As Redick will come off the bench, I go with Markelle, as he hasn't shot the ball well in his first 2 games, will need to improve and has plenty of work to do. The Phoenix Suns, Isaiah Cannon started at the point the first game. Devin Booker, TJ Warren, and Trevor Ariza will share the 3, while Josh Jackson and Ryan Anderson will share the 4, and DeAndre Ayton at the 5. The worst is Cannon, who averages 8.4 points for his career. The Suns badly need a point guard. The Portland Trailblazers has one of the best backcourts in Dame and CJ, Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Yusuf Nurkic at the 3, 4, and 5. I gotta go with Harkless on this one. Not a great offensive player, but a solid defender. For Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Zach Randolph, and Willie Cauley-Stein. They have a couple of nice young talents. I expect Marvin Bagley to start as the season progresses. The worst starter, I go with Bogdanovic, who averaged almost 12 points a game last season. The Spurs, a huge blow with DeJounte Murray tearing his ACL right before the season, and Derek White also hurt. Bryn Forbes will get most of the start at the point, who's the least talented one of the 5, which includes DeRozan, Gay, Ulrich, and Gasol. Sometimes Jakob Poeltl will get the start at the 5, but I'm still going with Forbes. The Raptors, Kyle Lowry, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, and Jonas Valanciunas are the main starters. Since Green is in his 10th season and 31 years old, and Pascal will continue to get better, Danny Green's the worst one for me. For Utah, Ricky Rubio, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, Derek Favors, and Rudy Gobert is solid, but Favors at best is a solid role player as a 4th option. Wouldn't start for half the teams, so I'll go with him. Finally, for Washington, Wall, Beal, Porter, Morris, and Dwight Howard when he comes back. Everyone will probably think I picked Markieff Morris, but Dwight Howard is the worst of those 5. Yes, Dwight has more talent right now than both Morris and Porter, will give you double figures in rebounds, but hasn't been a useful player since his Houston days, been on 5 different teams the last 4 seasons, made little to no impact since. At least Porter and Morris can make big shots. Those are all the worst players in every team's starting 5. I'm not saying any of these guys are bad players at all. A bunch of them are very good, like Jaylen Brown and Will Barton. Others should be bench players. Some of them are very impactful with their teams. Who do you guys think is the worst player currently starting in the NBA today? Thank you so much for watching this video. I talk NBA comparisons, amazing storylines, NBA history, and anything basketball that will interest you. If you love the NBA, subscribe to my channel. More great stuff coming soon. See you next time.